Hello there, this is African News. I'm Rochelle Ferguson with the top stories on the continent. Free at last, a Sudanese woman sentenced to death for abandoning her religion has been allowed to go free from prison. Fighting against terror, the AU says that Kenyan fighter jets have bombed bases of Somalia's Al-Shabaab rebels, killing scores of militants. And the annual Dakar Fashion Week once again proves it's a serious indicator of the latest trends, as well as an attraction for both African and foreign designers. But first to our top story. A Sudanese woman sentenced to death for abandoning her religion has been freed from prison, according to her legal team. The official news agency SUNA reported that Meriam Ibrahim's death sentence was overturned by an appeal court in Khartoum. Ibrahim's father was Muslim, but she was raised as Christian by her mother. The 27-year-old was convicted of apostasy for marrying a Christian man. Sudan's penal code criminalises the conversion of Muslims to other religions, a crime punishable by death, as Shirley Sitbourne reports.
Locked up in a prison cell with her toddler and baby girl because of her religious beliefs. Meriam Ibrahim Ishaq's life took a dramatic turn in 2013 when a group of men sued her for abandoning Islam. Meriam was raised as a Christian by her mother, but her father, who abandoned them when she was 5, was Muslim. To Sudanese authorities, this means she's a Muslim too. And according to Sharia law, which Sudan applies since 1983, Muslims who convert can be sentenced to death. For weeks, the Ishaq family pleaded its case, but on May 15th, a court sentenced a young pregnant mother to be hanged.
They were given ample time to prove their innocence, but I for one believe in upholding our traditions and customs as Sudanese.
When Meriam gave birth to her daughter in prison, the countdown began. Her execution was set for the girl's 2nd birthday. The family appealed the decision.
I hope they will take another look at the case. They'll find many flaws, enough to cancel the judgment or close it.
Meriam's family was supported by NGOs, but the outcry coming from social networks and Western governments was perhaps more decisive. David Cameron said, "The sentence is barbaric and has no place in today's world." The higher Sudanese court then ordered the release of the young woman. Sudan is one of 20 countries where apostasy is considered a crime. Meriam's release is unprecedented. Other Christians convicted of apostasy have had to rebuke their religion to save their life.
Kenyan fighter jets have bombed bases of Somalia's Al-Qaeda-linked Al-Shabaab rebels, killing scores of insurgents. This according to the African Union. Airstrikes on the villages of Anol and Kude in the southern Lower Juba region are part of an offensive by AMISOM, a UN-backed AU mission in Somalia. The strikes come just a week after Al-Shabaab claimed responsibility for twin massacres on Kenya's coast, in which at least 60 people died. Well, France 24's Hannah McNeish is in Nairobi. Hannah, good evening to you. What more can you tell us about these airstrikes, as the Kenyan army and Al-Shabaab seem to disagree?
Yes, it's not the first time, but it's very difficult to verify who's right. I mean, Al-Shabaab is saying that not one fighter was killed and these bombs fell in the woods, whereas the Kenyan government is saying that 80 people died and they hit 2 villages. What they do both agree on is that today there were other aerial and ground assaults, and this is an offensive that's been going on since April 2013 to April this year to try and clear these areas of Al-Shabaab.
Now, Hannah, can this latest assault by Kenyan troops in Somalia be seen as revenge for those coastal attacks just a week ago?
Well, this has been an ongoing offensive, but yes, it could be considered that this is Kenya striking back. We had 2 attacks on the coast last week that killed over 60 people, but which the Kenyan government insisted was not Al-Shabaab, even though Al-Shabaab were insisting it was them and that there would be more attacks on Kenya in retaliation for the Kenyan troops there. The Kenyan government last week also said, warned people not to go and watch World Cup matches in bars, which could also be seen as maybe them having intelligence of more Somali terror group attacks. But so far, it's been very difficult to find out what exactly is going on in the ground.
OK, Hannah McNeish, that's where we leave it for now. Thank you. Well, still in Kenya, hundreds of demonstrators marched through the town of Busia today, demanding justice for a schoolgirl who was brutally gang-raped last year. The 16-year-old victim, known only as Liz, was reportedly attacked by 6 men in June 2013. Protests come on the eve of the suspect's trial. The attackers were originally punished by being made to cut grass, a decision which sparked international outrage. Next, chilling and draconian, the words of the US Secretary of State John Kerry after 3 Al Jazeera journalists were each sentenced to 7 years in prison by a Cairo court. Peter Grest, Mohammed Fahmy and Bahar Mohammed, who work for the Qatar-based channel, were convicted of spreading false news and supporting the now outlawed Muslim Brotherhood. 3 other foreign journalists were also sentenced to 10 years in absentia, as Sanam Shantier explains.
7 years in jail. That's the sentence of 3 Al Jazeera journalists handed down by an Egyptian judge, the maximum penalty available to him. The trio are found guilty of aiding the blacklisted Muslim Brotherhood, a charge they strongly deny. They include Canadian-Egyptian national Mohammed Fahmy and Australian Peter Grest, and the Australian Foreign Minister was quick to condemn the sentencing.
The Australian government is shocked at the verdict in the Peter Grest case. We are deeply dismayed by the fact that a sentence has been imposed, and we are appalled by the severity of it.
A third defendant, Egyptian producer Bahar Mohammed, received an additional 3 years on a separate charge. The 3 journalists have been behind bars since December. They were among 20 defendants in a trial that has triggered international outrage. Since the ousting of Egypt's Islamist leader Mohamed Morsi in July 2013, the authorities have been riled by the Qatar network's coverage of their deadly crackdown on his supporters. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi's government considers Al Jazeera to be the voice of Qatar and accuses Doha of backing Morsi's Brotherhood.
Now, it was an exciting time for African teams at the World Cup this weekend. There was a draw for Ghana against Germany, a win for Nigeria against Bosnia, not to mention Algeria's impressive 4-2 win over South Korea, each signalling possibly good news for the continent's chances in the tournament. Cameroon faces host Brazil in a short while, but the Group A team are already eliminated after a second successive defeat to Croatia last Wednesday. And finally, the annual Dakar Fashion Week came to a close this weekend after several vibrant days of showcasing African couture. Now, in its 12th year, the fashion event has become an indicator of the latest trends, as well as a huge attraction for both African and foreign designers. Benetta Jiang reports.
I don't wanna be.
Light and flowing evening gowns. This year, Dakar Fashion Week featured sophisticated fabrics such as silk and satin, some with intricate designs. Heading up the event, Senegalese designer Adama Peri, based in the city's Medina area.
The designers are better. There are more evening gowns and formal wear. In Africa, we like formal clothing a lot. This year, with designers coming in from other countries, we have a lot more of a balance. They make a lot more casual clothing, and the Africans show a lot more luxury items.
Over the past 12 years, Dakar Fashion Week has grown exponentially. There were just 4 designers the first year, and this year there are nearly 30 participants from around the world. Emma Baumgartner has flown in from Austria.
I choose the cloth in Africa, and then I sew them in the Austrian folklore style. It's from Austria, Germany and Switzerland.
In Senegal, fashion inspires young artists. Romeo founded his brand 2 years ago. With his unique T-shirts, he hopes to break into the already crowded Dakar fashion scene.
Here in Dakar, to have a shop and all those costs, it's rather difficult to get a location with low costs. I sell online. That allows me to avoid the costs and taxes.
During Dakar Fashion Week, Adama Peri launched a TV channel dedicated exclusively to fashion, intent on putting Africa's best talent at center stage.
Right, your Africa team is back in about 45 minutes' time. Up next, more international news with Mark Owen.